The story you are about to hear is one you may know, for it remains the oldest living religious tale in Iaddithis today. It predates us by some 5,000 years and reaches even further backwards in its scope. Today, we tell the Tafik version, but we know that it came before the first Tawusil, before the tribe of Vazi split and followed the Elvish king away, and before even the great empire of Amat stood on its stone foundations. This story is called The Owl and the Crow, or Where Four Suns Ascend. At Time's first breath, the great mother Yad pulled away from her siblings to explore the newly created universe. Her power sheared a realm away from the others, just as the other elders were to do, and this realm became the overworld. The others pulled away the deep fire and the noble, layered one on top of the other. Hinged at the center of the realm was Iaddithis, and on it Yad cast new life. This was when all the animals of the world were like us and spoke like we may have, and when the forces began to sublimate from the world. Iaddithis was a beautiful paradise. However, neither the sun nor moon existed, and the world was without color. Yad sought to fix this, and made herself heirs and a court out of the animals. She charged them to bring color to the world, and they thought to themselves on how to do so. The owl was known as one of the wisest animals in the land, and she began to craft a plan. The owl looked upward and thought to herself, would it not be best for the color to come from the sky? That way it may reach all the lands, as all lands open to the sky. So she petitioned the elder of the deep fire for an eternal flame, one to power such a magical object. She was granted her request, and placed the fire into the sky. The sun came into being, and the owl could see. The owl, however, realized quickly that she would have to spin the fire to keep it going, just as our world was spun by Yad for our time to flow. So, the owl, being clever as she was, used the spinning world to power it. She would walk the world in circles, and use this to spin the sun. For her invention, and for her dedication, the owl was given the seat of a lord, giving her dominion over the sun and the creatures of the day. There was, however, a crow. She was ragged and scattered about to eat whatever or whoever she may come across. In her killing and ignorance, she boasted of herself and her might. She wanted a seat of lordship for herself. So she conspired to copy the invention. She fashioned a shiny rock into a sphere by dunking into the river every night, pulling the tides with it. Whenever the sun was poised to retreat, the crow would parade her stone, and convince the animals of the darkness that this would bring light to night as well, something that the owl could not even do. So she placed it in the sky as well, and it was the moon. Its light was dim and only used the sun's strength, adding to the burden of the owl. The moon, which spun on its own to face us, and which shined without power, disgusted Yad. She was disappointed in the crow's lack of creativity. However, it did impress the Knoll Elder quite nicely. She granted the crow a seat of lordship, giving her dominion over the night and its creatures. Soon after, Mother Yad had fallen. One day, the crow saw the owl on her rounds, and began coveting the bright power of the sun for herself. She proposed a plan. The spider was now the elder lord, and he ensured Iaddithis was now embedded with a beautiful yet invisible red web that covered its vast span and continued its spin. The animals became enmeshed in it, and when one got closer to the spider, they risked more and more becoming ensnared and caught within it. This was the trap of the truth and the iron mind. The crow sought to use this trap for the owl, and she ran over to her. She pleaded with her, "You must help me find the moon. It was stolen from you by that nasty baboon." The owl was sympathetic and followed the crow. When they made it near the edge of the dangerous snares, the crow maneuvered the owl into it, where she was quickly tangled. She was stuck fast. The crow consumed the sun and became a raven. As many Tewusil say, the sky turned green and the world changed again. The owl saddened, and called for the spider to help her out. The spider could be heard but not seen.
I cannot help you. You must pass through the web of your own mind.
The owl was taken aback and responded, "How can I do this?" So the spider taught the owl.
The web is your own mind. The web is the universe. To which are you fixed? If you are fixed not to one, nor the other, nor any or jealous, what may snare you?
The owl was upset and responded, "You yourself are stuck here, tending to your creations. How can you be free if you still exist here?" It is said at this moment the owl began to slip through the webs, for she came closer to the secret of the higher mind. The spider was highly impressed. He then gifted her his own boon. The spider gave the owl the ability to see where the web truly was. She never would be stuck again, and she would reach the higher mind at her discretion, to which she dedicated herself. The sun itself reflected, and with the web under the owl's ability to avoid, the sun spun itself in the raven's belly, joining all the world's rotation. Upon this, they endeavored to retrieve the sun from the raven. The Lord Spider crafted a fine dagger to smite the raven, and a tome of magics for her lordship, and handed it to the owl. The owl sought the raven with a dagger. When the raven saw her, she took both the sun and moon, and hid it under a cloak and fled with them. The owl gave chase, using her eyes and her magics to track the raven around the world. When they reached the trap of the high mind, the raven flew too close and became ensnared. Her eyes had become used to the darkness of the moon and could not see. The owl took the dagger and cut the raven open, pulling the sun and blinding the crow. After they had left, the crow began to die, and as its mind slipped, it too slipped from the web, taking the dagger and beginning the cycle again. When the owl continued her trek through the world as a lord, she brought the sun ever spinning, and the day with it. When she reached the other side, the dark parts of the world, she would be caught by the Lord Crow and killed. Before being reborn as the owl, she would fly with all her might, silently avoiding the crow's wrath until she caught up and they battled, bringing the owl's victory and the sunrise. And it is said that every day, every year, and every 1,000 years after this cycle happens, powering our world